One crisp morning in Willow Creek, a sleepy cul-de-sac in Oregon, I stepped out to grab the mail and froze. The dirt path at the end of our street, the one we'd all relied on as our emergency escape route, was gone. In its place loomed a 6-foot-high cinder block wall, gray and unyielding, like it had been conjured overnight by some spiteful architect. It was ugly, oppressive, a slap in the face to common sense. I muttered, "You gotta be kidding me," half to myself, half to a squirrel perched on the fence, looking as stunned as I was. It flicked its tail, chattering like it was cussing out the wall in rodent code. I felt the same. Old Mrs. Larson from number 5, our resident newspaper retriever in fuzzy slippers, shuffled out. She's the kind of neighbor who nods politely and keeps to herself, her life a quiet rhythm of gardening and crosswords. She squinted over her glasses at the wall, then at me, letting out a sigh that carried the weight of too many community meetings. "Morning, Tom," she rasped. "Seen our new decoration?" "Decoration?" I bit back a laugh, but my voice was already tight, the kind of tight that signals I'm about 3 seconds from losing it. "That's no decoration, Mrs. Larson. That's a damn fortress. Wildfire season's breathing down our necks, and that path's our only way out if the main road's blocked by flames or a fallen tree." She adjusted her glasses, wincing. "Claire for number 3, HOA stuff. Said they had a secret vote last night called the path an eyesore. Said it drew undesirables. Claire, of course, Claire Mitchell, our HOA queen, a woman who lives for rules and wields her authority like a scepter. Her hobbies include taping passive-aggressive notes to mailboxes and measuring grass blades with a ruler." Undesirables. I scoffed. "The only ones back there are kids playing hide-and-seek and the occasional raccoon. And trust me, those raccoons aren't loitering theory too busy raiding her precious tulips." Mrs. Larson shook her head, a mix of exhaustion and surrender, and grabbed her paper. "Good luck, Tom," she muttered, hobbling back inside. "Good luck? I need more than that." I try to stay calm, take deep breaths, picture a serene lake, or whatever nonsense yoga folks preach. But that wall, Claire's wall, was burned into my brain, a gray scar mocking our safety. I stormed down the street, my sneakers slapping the pavement, straight to number 3. Claire's house was pristine, like it belonged in a magazine no one actually lives in. There she was, out front, snipping her flawless rose bushes with tiny shears that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. "Claire," I said, aiming for neighborly, but probably sounding like a guy whose eyelid was twitching. She glanced up, her sleek brunette bun unmovying, her oversized sunglasses hiding any trace of humanity. "Good morning, Thomas," she purred, her voice sweet but laced with venom. "What brings you here on this lovely day?" "The wall," I said, pointing toward the monstrosity, the one blocking our county-mandated evacuation route. Her lips curved into a smug little smile. "Oh, that. Our beautification initiative. The board decided that path was a blight on our neighborhood charm. Rules are rules, Thomas. Neglected paths in VYT trouble." My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. "Charm? Claire, we're in Oregon. Wildfires are a real thing. That path could save lives. Blocking it is illegal, straight up, no question illegal." My voice was climbing, my Zen plan crumbling. She snipped a perfectly fine leaf with a crisp saw-click saw. "Well, Thomas, perhaps you should have thought about community standards before your daughter's swing set was found 2 inches outside regulation height last spring. We all make sacrifices." I stared dumbfounded. She was dragging my 9-year-old daughter Lily's swing set into this? A swing set she uses maybe once a month? "You're comparing a kid's swing set to our ability to escape a fire?" I sputtered. She gave a tiny shrug, the kind that makes you want to scream. "The bylaws are clear, Thomas. That path was a liability. The board has spoken." I turned on my heel, steam practically pouring from my ears, and trudged home. My wife, Emily, was on the porch, coffee in hand, her face a mix of sympathy and here we go again. "Claire," she asked softly. "Claire," I growled, collapsing onto the porch swing so hard it creaked. "She's walled off our escape route for aesthetics and brought up Lily's swing set as some kind of gotcha." Emily winced, sipping her coffee. You know how she gets when her power's questioned. She's been whining about that path since someone's cat dug up her prize lilies. This isn't about cats or swing sets, Em. This is dangerous. I was pacing now, a caged animal in worn sneakers, my eyes locked on that hideous wall. Then my gaze drifted to the garage-me haven, my cluttered kingdom of tools and half-finished projects. My dad, a mechanic with a knack for fixing anything, taught me to weld before I could ride a bike. I grew up tinkering, soul-VYing problems with steel and sweat. An idea sparked, wild and reckless, growing brighter until it was a full-blown epiphany. I stopped pacing, a grin spreading across my face, probably a little unhinged. Emily eyed me warily. Tom, what's that look? That's your I'm about to buy something dangerous online look. Claire's made the evacuation route up and over, I said, my grin widening. So, by God, up and over we'll go. Up and over what? She asked, dread creeping in her voice. Tom, what are you planning to lift over Claire's wall? Please say it's not Claire. Tempting, I chuckled. But no, I'm thinking a portable gantry crane compact, residential scale, and a hell of a statement. Emily stared for a long 10 seconds, then sighed, a sound I've heard through every one of my harebrained schemes. But then her lips twitched a smile. A crane to get over Claire's wall of spite. You're serious? Dead serious, I said, already mentally sketching load calculations. This wasn't just about a wall anymore. This was about turning Claire's petty power play into my masterpiece of defiance. By the next morning, I was on the phone, flipping through tattered phone bookies. I still have one. No judgment. I called equipment suppliers, hunting for a gantry crane. My first stop was Rusty's Heavy-Duty Deals, where a guy with a voice like gravel and regret answered. Rusty's? What do you want? I'm busy with a guy trying to sell me a taxidermy bear in a cowboy hat. Hi, I said, trying to sound normal. I need a gantry crane, portable, maybe a 1-ton capacity, adjustable height. Preferably not home to any critters. He laughed, a sound like a backfiring truck. What are you lifting? Your mother-in-law's grudges or a really big birdhouse? Something like that, I said. Hey, landscaping project. 4 vertical access over a decorative barrier. Even I cringed at how shady that sounded. Some barrier, he snorted. Got a used one from a shop that went bust. 10-foot span, hoist solid. You got a truck, or do I strap it to the bear? I made more calls, VY gating a maze of oddballs. One guy, Jimmy at Junkyard Gyms, swore his slightly dented crane hook was lucky. VYing once lifted a prize-winning pumpkin. Another, Tammy at Lift M High Rentals, asked if I was trying to relocate an ex and warned about biohazard fees. Finally, I found a certified used gantry system from a supplier 2 hours away. It wasn't cheap, but it was perfectly insane. Delivery was set, and I was all in. Word spreads fast in Willow Creek, where the biggest news is usually whose dog barked too loud. Maybe Mrs. Larson spilled about my calls, or Claire had spy cameras in her garden gnomes. Either way, by Wednesday, a fancy envelope was taped to my door with HOA-approved adhesive that could serve VYV a hurricane. Inside, on thick paper that screamed expensive bad news, was a letter from Claire. Dear Mr. Thomas Reynolds, it began dripping with fake warmth. It warned of my unauthorized procurement of heavy industrial machinery and cited bylaws I'm pretty sure she made up on the spot. I found Claire trimming her roses, looking like she'd just won a smugness contest. Got your note, I said, while VYing it. Quite the read. Almost as gripping as the county fire codes I've been studying. She didn't look up. Just exploring some elevated landscaping, Claire, for plants that want to escape ground-level tyranny. Her eyes narrowed over her sunglasses. Don't get cute, Thomas. The HOA won't tolerate disruptive eyesores. We have standards. Oh, I'm going for functional, I said, my smile sharp. Very functional. Friday brought a van, and 2 guys built like they could bench press a tractor. They unloaded steel beams from my crane, and Lily watched, wide-eyed. Dad, are we building a robot to fight Claire's wall? She whispered. Better, I said, ruffling her hair. We're building a monument to not taking nonsense. As the delivery guys wrestled the last pallet onto my driveway, a police cruiser rolled up. 2 cops stepped out. Officer Grant, a veteran with a face that said he'd seen it all, and Officer Lee, a rookie practically bouncing with excitement. Claire's curtains twitched called them. "Afternoon, sir," Grant said, eyeing the steel. "Got a complaint about an unpermitted construction project. Something about a giant metal structure." I flashed my best good citizen smile. "Just workshop equipment, officer. I'm a hobbyist metalwork, fabrication. Keeps me out of trouble." Lee, practically drooling over the beams, chimed in. "The caller said you're building, and I quote, an unauthorized Statue of Liberty knockoff with potential to disrupt air traffic." I choked back a laugh. "Not quite, but I love the Creati VY tie. I'm just making sure we don't get trapped by a fire because someone thought a wall was prettier than a safe exit. You've seen the new cinder block wall at the end of the street, right? The one illegally blocking our emergency path." Grant sighed, the universal sound of "not this HOA crap again." "Yeah, the lady at number 3 mentioned a beautification project. Your setups on your property?" "Yup," I said, "and compliant with city codes for temporary structures." I checked. I'd spent hours on the city's clunky website, and it paid off. Grant rubbed his temples. "As long as it's on your land and not breaking codes, this is an HOA spat. We don't get involved unless it's criminal or a clear safety risk like, say, a blocked fire exit." He glanced at the wall. "Keep the noise down and don't launch any drones, okay? The FAA's picky." I nodded solemnly. "No drones, promise." They left, Lee looking bummed he didn't get to arrest a row monument builder. Saturday was crane building day. I roped in my buddies Mike and Sam, lured by pizza, beer, and the chance to stick it to Claire. The crane parts sprawled across my driveway like a dismantled giant. "So," Mike said, scratching his chin, "your HOA dictator builds an illegal wall, and instead of a lawyer, you go full Mad Max to the crane?" "Lawyers are boring," I said. "This is a statement." Sam, flipping through a confusing assembly manual, snorted. "A statement VY Cybele from space." Claire's gonna stroke out. As we bolted steel together, cursing when a nut vanished into the grass, neighbors gathered, whispering and snapping photos. Claire appeared, phone glued to her ear, her face a furious shade of red. "Yes, a crane," she shrieked. "He's building a war machine. I want code enforcement here now." By afternoon, the crane's I-beam was hoisted up, bright yellow and glorious, towering over Claire's wall. Emily brought lemonade and cookies, shaking her head but grinning. "You're nuts, you know that." "Nuts but prepared," I said, wiping grease off my face. Sunday morning, we attached the electric hoist. It purred like a happy cat. Then a city vehicle pulled up, followed by another cop car. Claire had escalated, probably claiming I was launching missiles. A code enforcement guy, Mr. Clarence Withers, stepped out, clutching a clipboard like a lifeline. With him was Sergeant Lopez, her face unreadable. "Mr. Thomas Reynolds?" Withers asked, his voice dry as dust. "We've had complaints about an unpermitted structure and unlicensed heavy equipment." I handed him a crumpled permit I'd wrestled from the city's website. "Right here, sir. Temporary elevated support structure for recreational and emergency access demo." Withers read it, his eyebrows climbing. Lopez peered over. "Recreational and emergency access?" Withers said, dripping skepticism. "Yup," I said. "Speaking of emergencies, you've seen the unpermitted wall blocking our fire exit, right? Built by Claire Mitchell, HOA president. Major safety hazard." Lopez's eyes flicked to the wall, then back to me. I handed over photos, a county map, and neighbor AFIDA VYTS. Claire was on her lawn, practically combusting, still on the phone. "So," Lopez said, a hint of amusement in her voice, "you built this thing because of her wall." "I believe in creative solutions to safety threats," I said, all CIVY CVY or two. The air was thick with tension. Would they shut me down? Fine me? Or would Claire's reign end? Withers and Lopez huddled, glancing at the crane, the wall, my permit. Neighbors watched, some in lawn chairs, munching cookies from Mrs. Larson. Finally, Withers approached. "Your permits." "In order, Mr. Reynolds, Pro VY dead, this is temporary. But that wall is a blatant violation of safety codes. It's coming down. Claire squawked, a sound like a furious goose. I grabbed the hoist remote. Before that wall's removed, I'd like to demo the emergency access, folks. I called to the crowd. Since Claire's blocked our ground route, we've gone aerial. I hit the button. The hoist hummed, lifting a plywood sign I'd painted late last night. In bold letters, it read, Claire's wall of doom bypass safety this way. Mind your HOA overreach. The sign soared, clearing my fence, then Claire's wall by 5 feet, landing gently to point at the clear path beyond. 2 minutes, start to finish. The crowd exploded cheers, laughs, whistles. Mrs. Larson did a little dance. Even Lopez smirked. Claire was a statue of rage, her sunglasses askew, her face purple. Withers marched to her. Mrs. Mitchell, this wall violates multiple codes. Remove it, or the city will, and you'll pay for it plus fines. Lopez added, your bylaws don't trump safety laws. This is a liability nightmare. I flicked the remote, making the sign sway. Don't worry, folks. This crane's temporary, just a safety demo. Now that the path's being cleared, we'll dismantle it by tonight. Withers and Lopez nodded, handing Claire a carbon copy notice. By afternoon, jackhammers tore into the wall, each chunk of VY Tory. Claire vanished, rumors saying she was lawyering up or house hunting in HOA-free Montana. We ate pizza under the crane, neighbors toasting with beer and chips. For a crazy idea, Tom, this worked, Sam said. Never underestimate spite and a good permit, I replied. By dusk, we took the crane down. Willow Creek was changed. I was no longer just Tom for number 6. I was Tom the Crane Man, or to little Jamie down the street, Captain Skyway. Neighbors shared Claire horror stories and asked about my next project. I just grinned. Claire resigned as HOA president, replaced by Mrs. Larson, who suggested a community garden where the wall stood and a paint your mailbox however policy. The crane's parts sit in my garage, ready for the next fight. Sometimes when the new HOA sends a dumb idea like mandatory lawn mowing schedules, I pat the beams just in case. Last night, tucking Lily in, she asked, Dad, if aliens invade, can we use the crane to escape? I winked. Kid, if aliens come, the Reynolds Sky Bridge is our secret weapon. We'll airlift pizza, games, and flyers about clear exits to the unprepared. Proactive solutions. Kid always with a bit of over-the-top flair. So what do you think? Was I a hero for taking down Claire's wall? Or a reckless nutcase risking it all for a stunt? Should HOAs have less power? Or they VY towel for order? And if you faced a petty tyrant like Claire, would you fight with words, a lawyer, or something as wild as a crane? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more tales of suburban rebellion.